common values, common goals, common sense. The Common Sense Podcast with Semi Bird.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to episode 12. Today we're going to talk about a prosperous Washington, a unified and prosperous Washington. But as always, I have to start with thanking our supporters, giving you an update on all the great things that are happening within the campaign. And I have to go back to last week. My friends, Saturday in Spokane was absolutely magnificent. Spokane turned out. We had about 275 to 300 people that showed up in Spokane. We packed the house in Spokane. Thanks for showing the love. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. And then we had Snohomish County. And so I got to Snohomish County early for their Central Committee meeting in Snohomish County. And I'm looking at our folks joining us tonight. Snohomish County, I got there early. I was meeting and greeting folks. And it was wonderful. I hadn't been up there for probably a couple months. We spent all summer up there. And then we had an opportunity, each candidate, Dave came by with his team and shook some hands, and then I stayed. And Dave's representative went up and spoke for a little bit and shared some of the great things happening with the Riker campaign. Then I got up there and I shared some of the great things that are happening with us and what we stand for and what our vision is for Washington State and how we get back to the Constitution and valuing our citizens, all citizens of Washington State. And then an amazing person stepped to the mic and proposed to endorse our campaign. And we had an overwhelming support of endorsement, and we were endorsed. And then someone said, well, we want to propose an endorsement for the Riker campaign. And then they took a vote. And I'm happy to report, if you didn't already see it, my friends, well, Bird for Governor has been endorsed by the Snohomish County Republican Party, and we value all 15 of our counties that have stepped up to endorse us. Snohomish County, known as part of the Big Three, Snohomish, King, and Pierce County. And Snohomish County, you made a huge decision. And even in a recount, you stood strong for your values and what was important to you. And you said, no, we want to go in a new direction. And I imagine, based on everything I've seen over this last year, that those other 14 counties also believe the same. Clark County, special shout out to you. My brothers and sisters in Clark County, and I have to share this with the team. And again, appreciation to all, whether it's Asotin or Clark or Snohomish, all counties, you all mean something special to us. Clark County continues to give and to get out there. They had their meeting the other night. I think it was their Central Committee meeting, and they stepped up and they are going to lay out a big donation for us. And I want to thank you, not only for your endorsement, your support, boots in the ground. We're going to talk about the caucus that is tomorrow, my friends. You need to caucus. We're going to talk about this, but there's a lot going on. And I just want to say thank you, and thank you. You guys understand how significant this is. You know how significant this is because this is essentially this David and Goliath story. You know, we posted this quote from one of my favorite people of all time, you know, Mahatma Gandhi. You know, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, and then they fight you, and then we win. And that's the way it's happening, and that's the way it's going to happen. I have faith, as many of you know. And I have faith in all of you to support us and continue your support, not to be dissuaded. No fake polls, no fake media, no fake posts. We're going to stand together. We're going to unify. And we're going to talk about what unifying really means in a moment. Last Saturday, while I was in Spokane, someone asked me a question during our question and answer time. And they said, Simi, what would you do if they shut down the highway? Let's just say I-5. And I had no idea what was going on. But apparently we had that happen. And then over the next day, someone said, well, Simi, we haven't heard you say anything. And typically the media will send us an inquiry. give us a response from your campaign as to what your thoughts are on the protests. And this was a pro-Palestinian, and what I will also say a pro-Hamas protest that completely blocked the highway. And we know what happened. And they said, Simi, what is your response? I said, well, I'm going to wait until this podcast because I don't want to spend 1 second, run a newsreel, and say, well, that's not right. There's no value in that. There's no substance in that. And that doesn't tell you anything about what I'm going to do. So let's just go there. Number one, this is not the first time this has happened. What was it, 2020? This happened the last time in 2020, and actually someone died, if I'm not mistaken, where a driver was coming up an on-ramp, had no idea that there was a protest shutting down the highway. People were hit, one person died, and now the protesters, I believe, are suing the city today. And then all of a sudden, we're talking about passing House Bill 2318 that says we're going to impose stricter fines and make it a gross misdemeanor. And if you're organizing this protest, we're going to hold you responsible and penalize you with a felony. Well, good. Yes, that would have been one of my solutions as governor if you weren't going to do it in the legislature, that I, as governor, under Article 3 of the Washington State Constitution, I would have proposed it. So I'm glad, legislature, you're finally stepping up to do something about this. But it still doesn't solve the problem, because have you noticed we have laws on the books that this administration is not acknowledging, not following? Attorney General Ferguson, the CHOP, the Chaz, we remember that. If you're able to have that kind of an insurrection and sequester territory within the city of Seattle and say this is now ours, and you do nothing, and you let them start burning down police stations, or again, another life was lost, a black life, but no one said anything about that. Apparently that black life didn't matter. If we don't enforce the laws, no matter what you say you're going to do, nothing will happen. I intend on enforcing the rule of law. I've already mentioned this. I put out solutions with actions on law and order. Facta non verba in Latin, deeds, not words. I spelled out in detail the things I'm going to do, the actions I'm going to take. You know, something we didn't talk about, a Somali gentleman lost his life. This is a Lyft driver, I believe. Uber Lyft. No one talked about that. No one asked for a comment on that. No one is mentioning that. But everybody wants to talk about the protest. All lives matter. Enforcing our laws matter. This is systemic. And as I put down in writing and signed, holding prosecutors and judges accountable for enforcing the rule of law, what good is a law if you don't do anything about it? So I will not be one of those individuals, one of those career politicians that comments on a media, which means nothing if you don't do anything about it. Now you know what I'm going to do. And I put out solutions with actions on a counterintelligence joint task force to ensure that we are ready for any terrorist activity that could happen in Washington State, because someone says, well, Hamas is a threat. It's not just Hamas. We have porous borders, the port border, the northern border, and the southern border. I can go on and on, but I want you all to know that day one, things change. And I spoke about expanding our Washington State Patrol to a state police, where we're going to increase their capacity and their capabilities. I have already spoke about building up our infrastructure, having regional capacity to house criminals. Did you hear the response from the chief of the State Patrol? He said that they were unable. They did not have the resources. We have already spoken about the fact that Washington State ranks last in having enough staff per capita. So my friends, again, facta non verba, deeds, not words. To sit here and comment over and over again. I'm putting pen to paper. I'm talking about solutions with action. No cheap talking points. Because that's not how I operate. It's time to start doing. Say what you mean and do what you say. How's that for accountability in the chief executive officer for Washington State when we get elected? There's a lot to talk about. And I have a question that I brought down. Apparently, you guys didn't send a lot of questions in. So I'm going to look to the left. I'm going to look to the screen to see if you guys have any questions for me. So stand by. But when we're talking about a prosperous and unified Washington, there was an opportunity that was brought forward. And it wasn't brought forward in terms of an intended opportunity. It was brought forward by supporters of the other campaign to vilify, to demonize, and to do what they do in politics, which I don't support. I get it, but I don't support it. And that goes to people who say that they support me. If you dress up in a semi-suit and you go to the other campaign and you insult and you offend and you start fires and then you come back and thinking you're supporting me, you're not. Let's not be hypocrites about this. Civility goes a long ways. And if you represent me, you don't hear me call names. Will I name names? You're darn right. I speak truth. You ask me a question, I'll answer the question, and I'll be direct and I'll be straightforward. So let's bring civility. Let's not reciprocate evil. So someone decided to go to my previous company, a company that I owned, Team Concepts Training Services and Consulting. As I told you, I'm a behavioral scientist, business consultant. And they went to my site, and I'm going to bring up the screen. They went to my site, and they went to the page that had the items that I speak on, that I've given lectures on, and some of the clients or some of the places where I've spoke, and they put that up there, and they said, Simi Bird is a conservative. How can he be a conservative? And he supports DEI and works for Patty Murray. Now, that was one individual who filed the PDC complaints, a Republican. And then this individual, former candidate for legislature apparently, and she perpetuated it and said, Simi Bird supports DEI. Now, my friends, it's okay. This is something that's unique and sensitive to me, not in a way of, oh, you hurt my feelings. Again, it's sad, but truth is truth, and it's important. Take a look at this for a minute, and it'll pop up here. I'm not sure if you guys watching can see this. I highlighted it. Do you see that line where it says diversity and inclusion? Can you guys see that okay? Someone give me a little something in the chat box if you can see this. It says diversity and inclusion, generations, cultures, and perspectives. And then up here, these are speeches that I've given. So let me say straightforward, do you see a word that's missing there? Now, we have Senate Bill 5044. Senate Bill 5044. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Christine. Equity, that's that key word that is missing. And many of you have heard me speak on this in person. Some of you have taken my courses because on that thread, I saw many of you speak on this. And I want to get through this. Diversity and inclusion. Are we going to let people steal our language from us? How many of you out there are against diversity? Do I not represent diversity? How many women are out there that support women's rights? The 19th Amendment. One of my friends says, don't talk about the Constitution. No one knows what the heck it is. Women's right to vote. I'm not afraid to talk about it. The Republican Party. Were we not the party of abolition? Were we not the party that ended slavery? Were they not black Africans? We were the party of abolition. We ended slavery. We supported women's rights, and we supported my childhood idol, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and we supported civil rights. Some of you may not remember that. I do. And thank you, Lisa. I remember it. because I was born without civil rights. And I was raised by a single mom who taught her son, that little boy, the baby of 7, who started out in that inner city in poverty in the projects. Why did my mother raise me to be a man of faith, but to raise me to believe in myself, to understand my self-worth, but never to demonize my country, never to believe that I was a victim, to never believe that I could never accomplish everything I set my mind to if I worked hard enough. That's called meritocracy. And I wrote something called A Meritocracy. I didn't make it up. You go to my website, it's been there since I started running. It's called A Meritocracy. It builds upon Reverend Martin Luther King Jr.'s work. It means that in America, regardless of your race, creed, color, religion, if you work hard enough, there's nothing you can't accomplish. And in that site, I talk about lifting people up out of poverty and despair, jobs, trades, education. That's what those marginalized communities need, not the poison, not that Marxist indoctrinating theory of critical race theory or diversity, equity, and inclusion that's being put down into our schools through that Senate Bill 5044. I have been publicly opposed to that from day one. And so, although I'm not uber offended by these posts or assertions or allegations, but when you tell someone like me, who I'm sure once we win the convention, God willing, and we go in the primary, number one, and the other side starts coming after us, and they label me as the talking head of the Ku Klux Klan, what does it say about Republicans? What are you labeling me now? The DEI king? Is that the new version of the talking head of the Ku Klux Klan? So diversity and inclusion. How many people do not value diversity? We have diverse cultures in Washington state. I'm going to take this down, but you see it. Diversity and inclusion, generations, cultures, and perspectives. Remember that. I'm taking it down. And then I later gave that same speech at the Diversity Summit, and I'm going to bring up a video for you guys. Hi, my name is Semi Bird. I'm the Executive Director of Team Concepts Training and Consulting. We're going to look forward to working with you at the Tri-Cities Regional Chamber of Commerce Diversity Summit. We'll be talking about the science of leading diversity and inclusion. So if you want higher levels of employee retention, higher motivation, higher performance, and the bottom line going up, diversity and inclusion is the way to do it. We're not talking about isolating groups. We're talking about including groups and motivating them towards one shared purpose of creating value, not only for our customers, but for our stakeholders alike. Okay, so I hope you guys had a chance to look at that video. And so what I would say in my speech, generations, cultures, my clients, national laboratories, technology organizations, and by the way, I'm not going to say those clients represent me it's my political disclaimer, but my clients had a problem, and maybe some of you saw this in your organization, where you had people who had 30 years tenure in your organization, then you had people come in and right out of college or right out of school, and you had that communication gap between generations. We literally had 4 generations in the workplace all at the same time, and they were conflicting, right? They weren't communicating. That was those generations. Respecting those generations. And it was the same thing in a Special Forces team. You had more senior Special Forces Green Berets, and you had those Green Berets right out of the course coming on a team. And here's what I found. When you respect a person coming into that workplace, and you give them that coaching, that empowerment, you work with them, you include them, and make them feel valued in the workplace, you get better performance. They want to stay longer, higher retention, higher performance, better bottom line. Does that make sense to that video that you just saw? And it's the same thing with cultures. And in cultures, and let's just say national laboratories, you have scientists from all over the world, India, China, Nepal, from all over the world, breaking down those barriers and communicating and engaging, does it not make sense? Is that not diversity and inclusion? That is what I used to speak on. But somehow people got out of that diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm not done, because I could sit here and talk a talk and tell a tale, but I like to fact and non-verba. So let's take a look at this. Richland, Washington School Board rejects critical race theory. Richland, Washington School Board rejects critical race theory, and proposed by who? Richland School Board member Simi Bird. Now, I'm not going to take credit, because I'm not that person that runs a task force or whatever and just forgets about everybody else. We, as a school board, and I'm going to give notable credit to Audra Bird and Carrie Williams, my teammates. Why? You all know how I was raised. I've told you how I was raised. My mother did not raise me to be a victim or to think that the color of my skin determined my outcome in life. And so when I became a school board member, do you think that was not going to be a priority for me? Do you think I wanted our children to be taught that there's something wrong with them because the pigmentation of their skin was a little darker than others? Do you think I wanted little white children to feel that they are somehow responsible for slavery? The 1619 Project, that was wrong. It is wrong. We have great capability, regardless of our race, creed, color, or religion. Do we not hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator to certain unalienable rights, which among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, as codified in our Declaration of Independence? Is this the first? Is this the first course that I've ever taught? Perhaps not. Perhaps not. My friends, I don't have to defend myself against anyone or anything. I speak truth. You could try to fabricate off of something. You could fabricate anything you want to. You can make up lies. You can tell stories. You can go ahead. But this gives me an opportunity to talk about how can we be unified and prosperous as a state if we are not including and engaging all citizens of our state. Jason Rand said this when I was in Snohomish County. Jason Rand, so those of you who were in Everett a few months ago at that event where, Dave was there and I was there. It was very lively. One of our conservative talk show hosts, she had a lot to say after she went after me the first time, maybe the second time. I lost track. But Jason said, Simi, you are doing something that no Republican has ever done. You are going into the inner city. Why would I not do that? Are we not the party of abolition? Why would I not reach out to black and brown communities, Hispanic communities, Asian communities, all communities? Where have Republicans been? I'm not a blamer. And I don't want to be a shamer, because I see it. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you. But facts are facts. How can we unite if we're not engaging all communities? If we're forgetting, if we're marginalizing? Are you with me? Are you guys supporting me? Because when I go in and I deliver speeches which come from here and from here, many of you have heard me, and I talk about going into the inner city, and I tell people that we were welcomed and invited to Juneteenth, and they welcomed me in, and they came to the booth, and we had great discussions, and we are building support. And I have a wonderful gentleman who is a Democrat, who was very active in Democrats for Diversity and Inclusion, and he is going to canvass for our campaign in the inner city, and I get an applause from conservatives and constitutionalists and Republicans. Why are they applauding? Why do you think that is? I'll tell you why. Because they are real human beings who understand that we must unite, that all lives matter. All citizens of this state and every state all around the world have value. And like my mother used to teach me, all have worth. All have worth. And I realize it. And as the next governor of Washington State, I'm not here to be bought and paid for or simply represent certain groups with a lot of money. All have access to this governor. I don't care what's in your bank account or if nothing's in your bank account or what color your skin is. I don't play that nonsense. This is America. I was born black, I was raised black, and I will die black, but I am a proud American, always and forever. Now, I hope I'm not getting too spicy. I hope I'm not getting too excited. I hope I'm not yelling. But this is something I'm passionate about. This nonsense of division, this progressive movement. There's nothing progressive about the progressive. It's all regressive. I started off with nothing. I started off without civil rights. I'm not about to go back. I talked to a leader from the Ethiopian and Somali community, and she said this, and I probably have told you guys this before. She said, we've come too far to be free. That's why they are supporting me. And I can't speak for all of them, and she can't either. But she said, we have come too far to be free. And I'm going to tell you this. This kid has come too far to be free. And let me tell you this, and we're going to move on. But I'm hoping you're getting value out of this to understand that we must unite together. We cannot play into the hands of people that will use race or play on something like Simi gave a speech on diversity and inclusion, talking about generations and cultures. I'll give that speech again. I think I just gave it tonight, did I not? And I'll do it again and again. And by the way, all of you who have been to any of my gatherings, you've heard me talk about this. You've heard me say the progressives use race to divide us. I will talk about race to unite us. I've said that over and over again. So this is nothing new. Do not buy into lies and hype. And when you hear them disrespect my military service to our country, and you hear them talk about court-martial, that shock jock, conservative talk show host gentleman, Simi's got baggage. He's got a court-martial and 911 calls. No, those calls weren't called on me. Right? But let's talk about that military, this court-martial thing from almost 40 years ago. And in case you didn't see the video, in case you didn't see the full write-up that I did months and months ago, and my wife and I did a complete video on it in my house. But let me do it again real quick. I was racially discriminated against 39 years ago by a sergeant who liked to drop the N-word, and finally I had enough. And when he put hands on me, I defended myself. I popped him in the beak. Yes, I punched him. But you know, if you served a second in the military, you don't court-martial soldiers, sailors, and airmen for fighting. You wouldn't have a fighting force. You don't do that. So how did Tim... Yeah, I requested it. Why? Because I wanted to make a point to unveil the racism that was happening to me. Now, you can call me wrong. You can call me stupid. I don't care. But if you think you're going to demonize me and say Simi had a court-martial and he was thrown out. No, I have an honorable discharge. My records are good. And maybe why I came back in 16 years later, post 9/11, volunteered to serve in Army Special Forces, served with honor and distinction, Bronze Star of Valor, Purple Heart, and all kinds of accommodations. The shock jock talk show host doesn't ever talk about that. You know why? Because it doesn't fit their narrative. No, you have to go back and demonize this, brother. 39, 40 years ago, you can't talk about the recent war that I almost died in. No, that doesn't fit your narrative. You see what's happening? So let's do this. I'll talk about it as much as you want to. I'll go into as much detail as you want to. I'll send you as much documentation. I send it to Brandy. I'll send it to him. I'll send it to everybody. I put my medal on my website. I mean, I'll put it all out there. But if you think you're going to drag me through the mud, like Restore Washington said they're going to do. And by the way, on that DEI accusation nonsense, one of the leaders of that Restore Washington organization, because of that DEI thing, he called me a snake oil salesman. So apparently, if you're a constitutional conservative that supports diversity and including all cultures of Washington state, you're a snake oil salesman. And then they want to welcome me on their team. I would no longer be a snake oil salesman as long as I step down and run for lieutenant governor. It's amazing how that works. I'm going to take a question, and then I'm going to come back over here. And there's one right there, and I've got this and I've got that. Send me any ideas on how we can recruit politicians, school board members, judges, and other key positions. And so, Dawn, thank you for asking that. And Joey, I'm going to go to this question next. Dawn, to answer your question, I think leadership is important in Washington state. And let me just say this. Leaders unite. Leaders don't divide. Leaders are transparent. And leaders bring truth. And I hope that that's how you feel. That's what I did. That's why I bring show and tell, right? And I'll bring it for anything you want to talk about later. But as a governor of Washington state, and on this journey to Olympia, I plan on lifting up all. And by the way, let me give mention to Pete Serrano, a personal friend, attorney, who announced that he's running for Attorney General for Washington State. Now, I want you all to know, I personally endorse him. I professionally endorse him. I know the man. He's a good man, and there it is. Pete Serrano is running for Attorney General. I encourage anybody and everybody to support Pete Serrano in that position. I've known the man for years. Now, Pete may not endorse me, well, actually, personally, he did. He could change it, right? But that's the difference between me and maybe other people. I say what I mean and I do what I say. This is a good man. I will be voting for him no matter who he endorses. And so what I'm saying, if my brother supports someone else, I got his 6 because truth is truth. And so, Dawn, that is one example. We elevate others. And on the school board, some of you don't know and some of you should know. I'm a precinct committee officer. I have been for years. So I've been knocking on doors. That's one way we can do it. Get active, get engaged, become active in your party. Now, we may talk about party later. I know I will be doing a lot of that later. Not tonight, maybe. But get active, get engaged. Tomorrow is the caucuses. That is one way that you can support your candidate, certainly this candidate, certainly other candidates that are running for office, state, federal, local, well, state and federal. Support those candidates. Get active, get engaged. Don't wait. Get those school board members ready. And I will tell you guys, and I've done this, many of you guys know who know me, I've coached, I've helped, I've supported. I did that for our county. I supported my replacement. Kennewick School Board, oh my goodness, Kennewick, Washington. I don't want to jinx them. I'm just going to say, there's some good school districts out there, but I'm going to say I'm a little biased. Probably one of the best school districts in Washington State, and it's only going to get better because they have, I believe, some of the best school board members in the state. And when you have that law gives them the power to ensure accountability in their district. So, Dawn, I can go on and on and on, but it's we, the people, through self-governance, we need to get involved and get engaged. That is why I'm going to win the governor's race, because of us, because of you getting engaged and getting involved. That's how we win. We, the people, standing up, standing united, standing together. And again, this is why we have to unite, why we have to come together. All communities. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter what your political party is, what your religion is. It does not matter, because in Washington State, we have a need for leadership. We have a need for change. The Seattle City Council, they saw that need. The citizens of Seattle saw the need, and they voted in a new council. I talked about it in my last podcast, and they were able to emphasize and facilitate change. It can happen. It will happen. And it's going to be because of you. So, Dawn, that's how we do it. That's how we do it. Now, I'm going to go to this question, and I'm going to go back and look at your question. So, I'm still with you. The Growth Management Act, what was that, 1992, Tim? Right? And I'm going to speak to it. I'm not going to drop this because I'm going squirrel and Tim. Tim's a great supporter, and I appreciate him so much. So, Tim, let me just say this. I think it was 1992, but the Growth Management Act has grown out of control. It's not working. The Growth Management Act was enacted to be, I guess, proactive and mapping out a strategy to ensure that we had the infrastructure, that we had things in place. But look at the nightmare that is congestion of Seattle and the I-5 corridor, the Puget Sound area. It's out of control. So how well did the Growth Management Act work there? And here's the other thing about the Growth Management Act. Washington State passes laws that puts a burden on counties and municipalities, a financial burden, a regulatory burden that they cannot possibly support. So the Growth Management Act is not working, nor is it supporting at the local level. That is something as governor I won't do. I will not push forward and support laws that puts a burden on the county and local municipalities that doesn't come forward with a package of support so that taxpayers are not being burdened. I'm going to tell you guys, I still have this. This overtaxation with terrible representation will end when I become governor. No more taxation like we're seeing. We're not going to price citizens out of their homes. This property tax nonsense is out of control. Now they're trying to tax ammunition in this new legislative session that just started this last week. It's out of control. Again, our small business men and women, we need to readjust that business, that B&O tax. We need to ease the burden on small businesses a great deal. We need to de-weaponize L&I, employment security. We need to lift up small business, not penalize them, not target them, support them, incentivize them. If anything, give them tax breaks. So what am I going to do? I'm reeling back those taxes, and I'm going to be giving tax relief back to not just our small businesses, but our citizens. And I plan on deregulating to the level that we will in fact be a magnet for businesses of all sizes. I plan on expanding upon the concept of opportunity zones. And by the way, I still have this, I'm not putting it down. We talked about we support all communities. We do understand, don't we, that when you lift someone up out of poverty and despair, when you get people off that broken welfare system, instead of paying them just enough to keep them poor for the rest of their life, to perpetuate generational poverty, when you bring in trades and jobs and certification into those marginalized communities, you see what we're doing? We are taking the second largest, or the largest organization, in the state of Washington, but second on the budget, right? Education being number one. We lift those communities up. We are creating taxpayers. We are bringing more money in those communities that are being spent on those small businesses. We are creating prosperity across our state. And we're not doing it by raising taxes. We're doing it by lowering taxes. We're doing it by bringing in more jobs. We're doing it by bringing in better education, bringing trades into schools. My friends, I can go on and on. I get passionate about this. I probably look like I'm losing my mind up here, right? But this isn't rocket science. Well, at least it's not to me. It should be common sense. That's what this show is about. Unity and prosperity for a greater future for Washington is what this is all about. When one community prospers, all communities prosper. And I'm about bringing prosperity for everyone, not just the elite. And by the way, no sharing the wealth. We're repealing that capital gains and inheritance taxes. All that nonsense has to go away. You make it, it's yours. Okay. We the people are tired of the GOP. Uh-oh. We want politicians who are rooted in the Constitution, okay? Not the party, okay? We want elected officials who hold the line at all costs, okay? A little integrity, intestinal fortitude, I'm with you. We're tired of the Washington State GOP saying that they are for the people, but then working tirelessly to divide the conservative base. Semi, how do you plan to help heal the fractured party in Washington state and get it back to conservative values and away from party politics? So I don't quite know what to say to that, because I will tell you, I don't want to blow anything up, but I will tell you, I'm a truth teller. I was talking to someone last night, and I missed my appointment, and I apologize for that. I did send him a text. This is an individual who used to be a Republican that's now an independent. And he says he's leaning this way, but he hasn't committed. But he is a constitutionalist, and that's what you sound like. You know where I am at on that. He talked about the 1796 farewell address by President George Washington, in which President Washington warned the nation of the toxicity of partisan politics, that at some point in time, a political party system will become corrupt, and so that it literally supports an elite class, if you will, and it will undermine the constitutional protections of citizens, that which makes our nation a constitutional republic. Now, that is my summary off of memory of President Washington's farewell address. And so here's what I will say. The governor of Washington state, I will say, will be the leader of the party. And I'm also going to say this, as many of you have heard me say, all are welcome into my campaign. And yes, I say this proudly, and I will not run from it. I embrace it. We have support from people who have come over from the Democrat side, who are independents, who are coming to us by the truckload. We have brand new voters and young people who are coming to us. Why? Because they see something different, they hear something different, and they believe in what we're talking about. It's no longer about party and what is a conservative value. I can tell you what I believe and what I think, and I've told you that. But here's the thing. There is so much to fix in Washington state. I'm not asking anybody to change their values or beliefs. I'm just saying we need to come together. Bring it. That's diversity of thought. Bring your ideas. Bring your opinions. But to Joy, who asked this question, here's what I will say. My values have not shifted one iota. But it seems like every day, kind of like that DEI thing, where I'm now a snake oil salesman because I value embracing all cultures, all races, all religions, diversity, and including them. There's something wrong with that? No. If that's what a party platform is, if that's what the party supports, and the people who support me, those PCOs, those amazing individuals who endorse me, they never looked at me sideways when they were giving me their endorsement. So let me say this, and I should have said this at the outset. My race or my color does not entitle me to anything. I work for everything I have, and I always will. I need to earn your vote. But I will not let partisan politics interfere with the Constitution of the United States of America. The 13th, the 14th, the 15th Amendment, the 19th Amendment, I know, my friends said, don't talk about the amendments. We've come a long way. The Constitution belongs to the people, and my job as governor is to maintain and to protect the individual rights of our citizens, and I will do that, regardless of political label. So I'm going to go back over here, my friends, and again, throw those questions up here at me, because I'm here for you. Caucus, 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 and I'm going to end our conversation today by talking about the caucus tomorrow, because it's important. Again, that answers Dawn's question. If I missed a question up here, guys, I'm scrolling back up just to make sure. I see some amazing kindness on the text. Thank you, guys. Thank you for being here. Attend your caucus. Tim, you're 100% right. Become a delegate, and we're going to talk about that, okay? Someone said the words freedom just rang out to me. freedom is not guaranteed, and freedom is not free. Lisa, you're 100% correct. If you please donate so we can get this man elected. Thank you. Oh, Jacob Castillo. I'm just going to say this. So this is my brother, mi hermano, and his entire family. Thank you, Jacob, and please give my best to your family from the lower valley of Central Washington. And again, we are bringing everyone. And this is Jerry. Let's see here. There's been no growth management, housing, and as expanding into rural areas with no road infrastructure. Yes, and not only the road infrastructure, Jerry, you're 100% right. We were talking about the Growth Management Act. So, Jerry, that's what it's supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be proactive and being ahead of that growth, right, with the infrastructure. We just skimmed across it when we were talking about that ridiculous occurrence. And bear with me. If I didn't say it, and I don't think I did, if I was in office, my call to the State Patrol would have been, arrest them all now. Arrest them all now. And if that prosecutor failed to do their job, again, I've written what I'm going to do in that case, and the same thing for that judge. I'm not tolerating that nonsense. We have a National Guard for a reason. I am never going to take away a person's constitutional rights. Remember I said, my job is to protect their First Amendment. And they have a right to gather. I think that is Article 1, Section 4 of the Washington State Constitution, if I'm not mistaken. 4 or 5. They have every right, but not that. That is impeding traffic. That is violating the law. That could be hindering someone's life. Hindering emergency services to save a life or to put out a fire. No, you are not taking over our city ever again, and certainly not under my watch as governor. So no, the State Patrol would have been called in. That would have been handled. I'm going to get back. Forgive me. I should have said that when we were talking about the I-5 ridiculous occurrence that happened. Again, I respect everybody's First Amendment rights, but you're not doing that anymore in Washington State, not under my watch. You get a license, if required, to protest, and you do it peacefully, and you do it without causing a hindrance to other people's rights. It's not going to happen anymore. So no, our infrastructure, and it's not just our road system. We already know that the highway system, Department of Transportation, is underfunded by about $750,000. But we haven't even talked about the electrical grid. Our transformer system, our ability to transfer power. You all know I retired from the Department of Energy, and I've learned quite a bit even since then. Our electrical grid is teetering on the brink. We need to plus it up, and we will, especially since I plan on bringing small nuclear reactor technology to the Hanford site. That's what I'm hoping to do, right? We're going to embrace portable nuclear energy, and we have to rebuild our infrastructure. We have to build our infrastructure. So I went squirreling, you guys. Okay, I'm going to keep watching for questions over here because I'm here for you guys. All right. Peaceful assemblies mean, yep, you can assemble, but you cannot impede others. 100%. 100%. Okay, I'm going to talk about the caucuses tomorrow, and I'm going to look for questions before we end. All right? Tomorrow we have an opportunity to let our voices be heard. This is the People's Caucus, to support the people's candidate. That's what we're talking about. This is your opportunity to show up. And all you have to do is go to birdforgovernor.com, and look for that bright red box with the white letters, become a delegate. So here's what's going to happen. Our team will walk you through it. It's not too late. Up until tonight, you just want to show up. What is a caucus? I don't even know. You just need to go online. If you have someone who's 17 going to be 18, they can do it. Go online, register to vote. If you haven't already, as a Republican, that's the requirement, right? Click that button on our website. Go to your county. You'll see a map. Click your county, and the team, and register. The team will walk you through it. It's easy. The team will get you there. We'll tell you where you need to go. We'll get you lined up. And just show up. and you're going to have fellowship with other people from your community, from your precinct, from your community, and you're going to talk about who the candidates are. You're going to talk about what changes you want to see on your platforms. If you're a Republican, what changes you want to be, what you're supposed to be, what changes you want to see within the party. Have that fellowship, have that discussion. Talk about the candidates you want to support. Talk about why you support Byrd for governor, why you support change, why we are going to bring the change to transform Washington to the state that we can all love and be proud of. And I'm going to tell you this, I'm proud of it already, but oh my goodness, it's gone down. So everybody, go to byrdforgovernor.com, byrdforgovernor.com, click on the red box, become a delegate, go to that page, click on your county, register, it's just a few lines, and let my team get back to you and guide you in. Tomorrow, show up and be a delegate, because they're going to vote for who's going to be the delegate for that precinct. Become a delegate. Get engaged. That's what Dawn asked. That was her question. I see over here Leslie says, if you have a semi-supporting friend that has an upcoming birthday, anniversary, or any occasion, a gift can be given. Oh, I love it. So I'm going to say this. So, sorry, Leslie. Leslie is a friend. And my friend Leslie and her amazing husband, Ryan, they gave their Christmas gift to each other. They donated to the Byrd campaign. That is Leslie and Ryan. Sorry, Leslie, I had to do it. I love you. And Ryan and the whole Dodd and Sheldnick family. I love you guys. They donated the Christmas gift to each other with a wonderful donation to our campaign because they believe in us. They have grandchildren. Leslie has been very active in the school board, has been very active in the schools and communities. She has a special needs granddaughter. I know her entire family. Her brother is my brother. He's in heaven right now, and I'm not going to cry. I'm very close to that family, but I love them, and I had to say that on my podcast. Sorry, guys. You know how I am. You know how I am. So I'm looking for any other questions, but I cannot overstress the importance of this caucus. And by the way, caucus or no caucus, become a PCO. There's a lot of precincts. A precinct committee officer. Just go to vote.wa.gov, I believe is what it is. Go to voter registration, my voter registration, and you will find what your precinct number is, right? And then you can even click on your Republican Party, county Republican Party, and they'll tell you where you need to go if you don't go through my team. But show up and ask to become a PCO. You can be appointed. And then next year or this year, you can become elected as an elected PCO like I am, right? Get engaged. That's how we change things. This is why we can elect a career politician instead of, again, with a career American instead of the career politicians. This is the people taking it back. Okay, we're getting to the end. And again, Distinctive Dentures. Oh, I love it. This is a great company, by the way. Sorry, I want to put a plug there. I think it's Distinctive Dentures, and I think they're located in North Bend, if I'm not mistaken. It's a great organization. Show up. It is not complicated. Show up. I'm challenging you guys. Show up to this caucus. I don't care if you even know how to say it. I don't care if you know what a caucus says. Again, it's getting politically involved to save our state. And if you support me and you want to bring change, you want to ensure that we the people get someone in there, then show up and bring a friend or 10. Washington State has been doing the same thing for years under Democrats, and it's not working. Nothing's being done. Change will not happen unless we make it happen by voting for Semi Byrd. So, Delinda, thank you, my friend. I read it as I saw it. I'm glad it wasn't anything negative. It was beautiful. Guys, as we're coming down to our last minutes, I'll say it before, I've said it again. I don't see myself ever better than anybody else. I'm like you. I'm just a citizen. I care about my country. I fought for, I bled for, and I was willing to die for my country on foreign lands. But I'm home now. I'm retired from the military. I retired from federal service as a federal director. I've learned a lot in life, like everybody else, by the way. I will always bring that smile and positivity, because that's where my heart is. My dear friend, she said something that was one of the greatest compliments. She said, "I love your heart," and I love her back. I have a heart of service. I'm nothing if not devoted to my friends, to my country, to the Constitution, to that notion of what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. fought for and died for. Equality of opportunity. Not equity of outcome. Equality of opportunity for all. Why have we not reached it? Why are we bringing this nonsense into our schools when we should be talking about mentorship programs, trade programs, and academic excellence so that our students leave school with a junior apprenticeship and a good paying job waiting for them, if not a scholarship? I want Washington State schools to be the centers of academic excellence for the entire nation. That is the vision I have for our education system. There is nothing that we can't do. And the message here, and thanks for the reminder. Now, the message says things start, I want to say 10 o'clock. And I want you to get that. I want you to be there at 9:30. Now, I don't want to mess with this because this person I know knows what the heck they're talking about. Everything starts at 10:30, but you can be there. It says, but you can't be there after 10. So get there at 9:30, please. Get there early so you can register. They're going to have packets. They're going to walk you through everything. Please show up early. I promise you. We'll guide you there, right? I mean, we'll get you there. We'll get you there. I promise. We have staff ready to go all night. Sorry, staff. And by the way, before I get off this, I have the greatest staff. And I want to go back from the beginning of my campaign, from the staff that were with me from last year and the staff that are with me this year. Everybody has contributed to this campaign. Wonderful individuals. Thank you. I'm here by the grace of God, and I'm here by the grace of others who have supported me and held me up, and all of you who are doing the same. Make Washington bloom, not boom. I love it. Oh, that was good, Teresa. I love it. So I think, Jerry brought up, you need to work with the unions, connecting apprenticeships. So here's what I will say. People have asked me this before, and again, working down my last 3 minutes. People think that conservatives are anti-union. I am not. I am not anti-union. I am pro-trades. I am pro-jobs. I am pro-elevating people out of poverty and despair. I am not for this concept that you take a person based on the color of their skin and you put them there and you put them there, or you bring quotas. I don't do that stuff. We build people up. We teach people how to fish. We don't just give it to them. There's nothing wrong with a person because of their pigmentation. We're not playing that nonsense. This is America. But there's a lot we can do as a state to lift people up. And each time one person is lifted out of poverty and despair, we all benefit. We all benefit. And so, again, unity and prosperity for all starts with quality and transparent leadership in Olympia. This is what we're going to do, and we're going to do it together. I'm getting down there to the last few minutes. Jerry was saying that he's proud to be a union carpenter for 46 years. Jerry, I appreciate that. We have some people. Jeff is not a fan of the union. And Jeff, I respect where you're coming from. I could speak to that as well in terms of price cost, but I already know that Jerry would also talk about quality, and there's a balance there, right? It's a discussion I'm willing to have. But I will tell you, when it comes to jobs, there's a lot that we can do. And I will never turn down a conversation or discussion about bringing quality work, quality skills, and quality jobs to the citizens of Washington State. And we're going to start in middle school. And by the time they get to high school, freshman year, I want them in a junior apprenticeship program. That's what I want. That's what I want to see. And mi amiga Yubi, It's good to see you, my friend. Happy New Year to you. All right, everybody. I'm going to end by saying God bless you. Thank you. Get to those caucuses. Show up at 9:30. Go to birdforgovernor.com. I got to get this up there. What am I doing, my friends? What am I doing? Go to birdforgovernor.com. We had a good day. We had a good discussion. I hope you got something out of this. Bring unity. Bring love. Go to birdforgovernor.com. Please give. Please donate. I'm going to end with this. They keep talking about we don't have money. But you know what? We have enough to get us to the next day and the next day and the next day. You know what? Maybe that's fiscal responsibility. How is it that Bird for Governor continues to move along and thrive and grow and go? And we're only doing it on what? Over $300,000? Maybe we're fiscally responsible. Maybe that's what we need in Olympia. But nonetheless, donate, give, but get your bottoms to the caucus tomorrow at 9:30. Go to birdforgovernor.com. Volunteer to become a delegate. Push that red button. Everyone, God bless you. Good night. I will see you next week. Caucus tomorrow morning, 9:30. Good night, everybody.